Who do you blame for death in a natural disaster? The people, the earth, or as per usual, the government? It's Mount St. Helens today. Hello and welcome to Body Count, the podcast where we believe history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. My name is Jessica Manor, and my co-host today is...
Hello, everyone. My name is Bethany Skelton, and I'm so happy to be back. New year, new me, aka sick me. Oh, God.
Let me go ahead and tell the listeners, we are not attempting to be sultry today. We're not trying to get you with our dulcet gazy tones. We're both sick as shit, and it's disgusting.
Hello.
Hello. My. Don't you look nice today? No, we're not trying for that. That's just, we apologize. This is how we sound.
Yes. We have both been fighting the absolute crud, which everybody can attest. It's the worst thing ever. Way to kick off the first few days of the new year. God.
Well, I mean, quite frankly, at the end of the day, it's probably exactly what I deserve, but not you. So
I will tell you this right now. It has been at least a year or a year and a half that I've gotten really sick like this. And man, holy smokes, I thought death was going to take me. I told my mom that, by the way, and she said, no, God doesn't take sick people. He makes sure that you get healthy. He doesn't want vomit on his floor. I was like, thanks, Mom. Thanks. I was like, damn. Okay,
Mom, thanks. But hey, at least all that vomiting will have made you very, very thin for your birthday next week.
Oh, well, no, it already happened. It was yesterday.
I thought your birthday was the same. Oh, yes, it is yesterday.
Yeah, it was yesterday. A big old 3-1. 31 is now the new 21.
I'm a great friend, everybody. I'm very aware of what everybody's birthday is.
Honey, I will never hold that to you. I'm the one that keeps you on tabs of everybody's birthdays. Okay?
And that's the honest to God truth, because if it wasn't for you and your birthday stuff, I wouldn't remember. I don't remember. If you didn't wish me happy birthday, I wouldn't be aware that it was my own birthday.
I remember that year. I actually remember I texted you. You were like, oh, yeah, that is today.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, Jessica.
That is today. God. Oh, God, I'm a year older. It happened today. Oh, the passage of time. I'm bad with time zones, so why people expect me to remember days and years, I don't know. Time means nothing to me, muggles.
Well, and that's why I always specify in our text, hey, we record at 2:00 my time, 3:00 your time, okay?
And God bless you for that, because otherwise I'd be calling you at the wrong time. I text people back home and I'm like, why are they not texting me? Oh, because it's 5 a.m. there. That would be why. That's right.
Like, Jessica, you're in a completely different world over there.
I do not have to live in my non-Philip K. Dick universe anywhere else.
Oh, God.
So how's it feel to be a year older?
Oh, God. Well, after this week of being sick, I feel like, it's aged me a lot. But, I will say I like being in my 30s. Gives me a whole new meaning to life, because back, think about when you were 21. It was about bars and how much you could consume and how many men you were going to pick up at the bar, and it didn't matter what you really wore. You didn't really care about your health and anything like that. But now it's like, I've got my tray of vitamins and medicines I have to take every morning. Otherwise,
Monday,
I will fall apart.
Tuesday.
I got my little pill box out. I used to make fun of my mom for that. I'm like, God, Mom, what is up with that? You can't remember what day it is? And now I understand what it's for. And so I just have a new appreciation for things in life. I take better care of my body and my skin, and I have to actually work out. And, I stay away from beer. You stay away from beer, get in the liquor, you're totally fine.
That's exactly right. And it's not by choice. It's just because you want to get the same amount of a buzz on, but whereas it's going to take...
Without the calories.
Exactly. And you're just like, I I have to switch to just one shot. I need a higher impact. I need more bang for my buck, if you will.
No, give me that skinny girl wine and I'm good, you know. If it says skinny on it, I'm drinking it.
Right? It could be a total lie, but if you slap skinny on it, I'm going to buy it. And anybody out there that wants to preach body image at us, you're a liar because you do the exact same thing we do.
Yeah. We all are
do
guilty.
it. We don't have to feel bad about it. Everybody else can just suck it.
The main thing is to actually, when you see it, you laugh about it. And that makes it a whole lot better.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's basically our motto at this podcast.
Amen to that.
You know, that's how we do things. Speaking of, we all know that I'm officially done giving disclaimers. You've listened to this show by now. You know, we're kicked back on the couch. And we are going to be breaking down some seriously fucking disturbing history. We get all of this out of our brains because it does alleviate our anxiety. Just a tiny little bit. Just a smidge. You know, because there's a stressor around every corner these days. Each little bit helps. We encourage you to do it with us. Now, first and foremost, this is not your boring history class. We are not hardcore history. We're going to have some laughs. We're going to be talking about some pretty serious subject matter. But remember, we're laughing to keep from crying, just like we said. And we don't take ourselves seriously. We're aware of exactly what we are, degrees or no degrees aside.
Yeah.
In this 24-hour news cycle, though, we find this very refreshing. We don't have time to process events anymore, for they rip off that next Band-Aid and hit us with the next body count. We're here to slow it down, examine events that shape the world we live in, and hopefully correlate them with current events that you have all of 3 seconds to process these days. So if you're looking for that Hoover-esque, just the facts, ma'am, history, and on occasion true crime, where applicable, podcast, glad you guys stopped by. We're not going to be for you. If you want to be entertained versus preached at, we have a lot to get to today. But first, housekeeping.
Housekeeping? You need some housekeeping? No, I don't want any housekeeping. I clean your sheet.
No,
I give you fluff.
I don't need any of that, ma'am, because I have a horrible hangover and I'm already going to miss checkout time and have to pay for another day. So maybe just like ignore the vomit in the shower. And if you find the pillows, good on you. I couldn't find them all either. So, you guys, if you love this show, please, please, please subscribe, rate, and review wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. It's not to make us feel good. We certainly appreciate those 5 stars. And if you hate it, please just don't say anything at all.
Yeah.
It never hurts you to be kind to somebody. And God knows we need the kindness. And again, not to make us feel like pretty princesses. It helps us move up those charts, and it helps us on the business end of things. And also, please go find us and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So, Bethany.
Yes.
I want to take you back to 1980 today.
Ooh, yes. 1980. Let's go.
I want you to imagine that all of the people in this story are dressed similar to Ted Bundy because we're headed to the state of Washington.
Ooh, here we go.
But more specifically,
our own government.
All right, exactly. More specifically, we're going to Mount St. Helens. Now, as far as huge volcanic eruptions go, Mount St. Helens is on the smaller end of recent eruptions. It's estimated the explosion produced 24 megatons of thermal energy, which is roughly equivalent to more than 1,500 times more powerful than the atomic bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. But, more terrifying than an exploding mountain? Government negligence. And make no mistake about it, our body count today is the result of governmental negligence. As the sole purpose of the state is to protect us, Bethany, let's get mad together.
Grrr.
Ah,
Do you like that? Was that
I,
good?
I
It would have
love
been
it.
better, but I don't have a voice that well.
Right. If we
Uh,
tried to growl right now, we wouldn't be able to speak for
it
another
was
hour.
that was definitely I had to push that out.
I was just gonna do it.
I like that.
It's literally all that we have left in us, guys. Again, we cannot apologize enough for how we sound. But all of that aside, before we can get to our story proper today, let's let's buy a little time talking about volcanoes. Now, Bethany, on a daily basis, off the top of my idiot head, at any given place, I am constantly worried about murderers, snakes. Did I just say that insane thing I was thinking out loud? Tornadoes, bears. Do I at least look socially acceptable right now? Lightning, random mass shootings, hurricanes,
Yeah, hurricanes.
etc. Yeah, those are all real things. And I know you're the same way as me.
Oh
We're
yeah.
just balls of anxiety that are like, am I going to get murdered today? There's
Well,
a
or
50-50 chance.
yeah, and not just that, but it's like, do I have to go outside and meet with people today? Do I have to? Is it necessary? Like, I
I
don't want to do
find
it.
that the only thing I have to do is draw in air and metabolize that into oxygen and expel that carbon dioxide. All I am required to do is breathe. But
Breathe.
sometimes we do have to walk outside of the house. And given that fact, my anxiety is so crippling in a normal environment, I cannot imagine adding into that mix waking up one morning and worrying about loss of property or death by threat of active volcano. Now, I don't care how beautiful it is around them. Nothing on this earth is worth that to me.
Hmm.
But I understand that there are a number of complex personal, historic, and economic factors and incentives that go into choosing where one lives. I mean, we're not fucking Fox News or CNN. We get that. But if at all conceivable, maybe just don't live by a volcano. Like, would it be worth it to you, Bethany? Like, think Hawaii, beautiful, but it's just you're living on a volcano.
Well, I mean, I've been to Hawaii before when I was a small child, and honestly, it's one of the most memorable trips. I want to go back. It's you're right. It is absolutely breathtaking. But I would just go to visit, not actually to live, because even not volcanoes aside, just the fact of living in surrounded by a body of water with no escape, that freaks me out too. So add a volcano, and that's just not a place I want to live.
Exactly. Exactly. So, example time. Let's talk a little bit about volcanoes. And I assume most people have seen the ruins of Pompeii near Pompeii, Italy. Have you, Bethany?
Oh yeah, yeah, in books and history books and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, goody. So, really quickly, if anyone has not seen that, do go take a gander before choosing your home where volcano is a worry on your freaking homeowner's insurance. Because I want to say and please do not quote this. Please do not. This is purely from memory, guys. I want to say like 79 AD, Mount Vesuvius erupts and obliterates several Roman settlements in a series of pyroclastic flows. Probably the most well-known of those areas is Pompeii. And that is because Pompeii was rediscovered and has since been excavated. And you can look at all these images online. If you see these images, they essentially are plaster cast bodies in these horrible death poses.
Oh, fun.
Right? Isn't that good? So when excavating Pompeii, archaeologists were coming across these air pockets of pumice and ash and debris, and inside they find bones. So really quickly, side discussion, because it just occurred to me. At what point, Bethany, is finding a body an archaeological treasure? And at what point is it like PTSD because you just found a body?
Well, I mean, obviously, archaeological, they're always looking for bones, but wait a minute. Jessica, we know it's a crime scene. We know who killed these people. Obviously, it was a volcano.
Oh, that's good. I was just trying to be an asshole and make
Oh
a
God, of
point
course
like
you were. Here I
make a
am trying
point
to
like
actually dissect your question. Thanks a lot, bitch.
I
God.
I'm like, when are you like, oh, these bones are a historical treasure, not an act of crime? But I mean, you took the wind out of my sails because you gave her a real answer. So either way, I
God.
am the asshole here. Like
Yes.
either way, it worked. Good for you, Bethany.
Thanks.
So back
Oh
to
God.
Pompeii now that Bethany took that fun wind out of my sails.
God, Jessica.
You stomped on my facetiousness by giving an actual good answer. God. Oh, so Bethany, someone gets this genius idea to start filling these air pockets they're coming across in Pompeii with plaster as soon as they open them. Then they start chipping away the debris and discover that what they were actually looking at was bodies.
Ugh. Saw that coming.
Yay, goody. Woo!
Yay, bodies.
Bodies. As the bodies decayed, they hardened the debris around them, seeping shit out of it, and it took their shape. So
Oh my God.
you get to see exactly what these people's faces look like the moment of their death. So
Oh my God. Ugh. I just got, sorry. I just had a mental image and,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Takes death mask to a whole new meaning. So that's super fun. Go there. Yeah. See it. Touch it before you decide, yeah, I want to live near a volcano. That's a great idea. Want to do that. That pyroclastic flow into Pompeii alone was an estimated 550 degrees Fahrenheit, and the residents are thought to have died instantly. Yeah, they weren't Pierce Brosnan and Dante's Peak. They weren't getting away from that shit.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I have to stop you right there. You told me about Dante's Peak, and I was like, man, it sounds familiar, and I know I've seen it. It just has been a million freaking years. So I went on. I didn't rewatch the movie. I just was like, I'll watch the trailer. And I have never laughed so hard. You've seen Tropic Thunder, right?
Yes, I have.
People, our listeners have, and I will admit, like, I worked at the movie theater when Tropic Thunder came out, and people 5 minutes in were like, I want my money back, because they just didn't get it. And in the very opening, the beginning of the movie is like this narrator talking about movie previews of the actors in this actual movie, and they're not real movies, but it's just in a world where only one can survive. And I'm just like, in this trailer, that's how he's talking. And I am like dying laughing as this little tiny girl is clutching her Barbie doll on the front porch crying. And I'm just like, this is funny.
That's exactly what that trailer is like. Because back then, that's still how they made movie trailers. So guys, if you have not seen this terrible, but yet somehow wonderful movie with Pierce Brosnan called Dante's Peak, maybe go watch it, because we're all supposed to think of Mount St. Helens when we watch this. So, of course, none of it is factual, true, or even close. You cannot, literally cave hide from a volcano. God, I love that movie so much. So much. So if Pompeii isn't bad enough, if the anxiety of actually seeing what's going to happen, should the volcano one lives near blow up, let's go ahead and add to all of that the Yellowstone supervolcano situation. Now, Bethany, have you heard of the Yellowstone supervolcano?
No, I really don't know what that is. I mean, it sounds bad. He's just put super in front of volcano, so I obviously know that it's bad.
Well, it's not super good. Not in front of volcano.
Oh, God.
There's going to be a lot of super coming up. So, it has produced super eruptions, this Yellowstone caldera. And like you said, it's not just your standard fare volcano. If it was a lifestyle brand, it would just be metal. In a world where volcanoes have not learned to be metal. Introducing the Yellowstone Super Caldera. Oh! Actually, this supervolcano has erupted 3 times in its history. 1.2, 1.3, and roughly 630,000 years ago, respectively. Now, the largest eruption is estimated to have produced 2,500 times the ash of the Mount St. Helens eruption. So, in terms of power, let's think of it this way. The Snake River Plain used to be a mountain range. That's how forceful this explosion was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But thankfully the odds are low. Now, I'm a betting man though, as one says, and unlike Han Solo, I do like to know the odds. And so did some sick bastards in 2014 when they published a paper in geochemistry, geophysics, geostems, and explored exactly what a super eruption worst case scenario might look like. Now,
oh, like a what if. Okay.
Yeah, it's very much a what if. So,
Okay.
Before I tell you the odds, let's say the worst possible case. A super eruption would be capable of burying states like Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, and Colorado in 3 foot of harmful ash, which is basically a mix of splintered rock and glass, as well as completely blanketing all of the Midwest. So we're talking 240 cubic miles of bullshit just rocket firing into the atmosphere for weeks or months. Now, that much ash kills people, animals, plant life, crushes dwellings. It would destroy crops, shut down road and railways, cause catastrophic widespread respiratory health issues, block sewer systems, short transformers, and shut down all air traffic in North America for an indefinite period of time. A super eruption could result in a brief global winter or global cooling thanks to the sulfur aerosol spewing into the atmosphere, basically reflecting the sunlight into, out into the atmosphere, causing cooling. The odds, though, here we go. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Odds of a super eruption are 0.0014%, which thank God.
Thank God.
Right?
Yeah, God.
Which
I have a better chance of winning the lottery.
Oh yeah. Not only do you have a better chance of the lottery, winning the lottery, it's coincidentally less than the odds this eruption it's less likely to happen than the planet being eviscerated by an asteroid, which is just a whole different bag of dicks. Like, thanks,
I don't want that either. I don't want that either. Okay. But oh my gosh, like what you just said, like I'm from Kansas. Like I'm born and raised, and you basically just said that my entire home state is going to be demolished into thin air. Like, that's insane.
Oh yeah. That in a large part of the rest of the country. So that's comforting.
Right. Yeah. Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
I feel better now.
Don't we all? We're in the headspace now.
Yeah.
So we're in that headspace. We're where we need to be at. Bethany, are you ready to do this?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Let's jump in the DeLorean, the mental DeLorean, and go back in time. Now, we're kind of in that headspace, Bethany. We're about to get to it. Are you ready? Got your drink?
Yes.
Comfortable? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, body count of the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens, 57.
Oh.
Not that catastrophic, right? Not when you think of it that way, but also think of it this way. A volcano doesn't just wake up. This is the United States of America. No one should have died, as again, I can't stress this enough. The volcano didn't just suddenly wake up and go, I'm going to ruin the state of Washington's fucking day today.
I'm mad. I'm going to explode today.
Exactly. There's a lot of warning signs leading up to that. So how in the world do we end up with any dead people? Or maybe accidental, like a handful, but not 57. That's ridiculous. Right. And there is a reason. And we're going to get to that at the end of our story. Really quickly, though, what I'm doing is adding my own stupid thoughts into a summary of the work of far more hardworking and intelligent people than myself. Again, I am not Ken Burns is what I'm getting at. I can't give you a sweeping 6-hour history of 1 year of the Civil War. I'm not going to do it. I am apathetic in the extreme. So This is a summarization of secondary sources, and a large part of our information today, therefore, comes from the book Eruption, the Untold Story of Mount St. Helens, which, wordy title. But other than that, fantastic read. I really, really enjoyed it. It explores all the science, the history, and the economic factors that go into the events leading up to and surrounding the eruption. And it has that unique scope of time as well that lets you really look at the event in clear focus. Now, I am understandably, therefore, just scratching the surface. So please go and buy Steve Olson's Eruption, the Untold Story of Mount St. Helens. And then also, I really enjoyed this episode of Seconds from Disaster. It's one of my favorite shows, Bethany. Mm-hmm. I'm addicted to it. And I don't
know why.
Oh, it's so
I don't know why. I can't get on board. You told me to go watch it, and I was like, but it's about death and disaster. I can't do it. I don't know why you like it.
Because you like me telling this story with my own ridiculous. I love sitting there. So the mountain erupts.
Oh God, I was like clawing at my eyeballs. I was like,
This is horrible. Of course, guys, you can that's also available to pick up and buy. You can get both of those things pretty easy at Amazon. Not that Amazon needs the business, but it has made my life easier. That's where I got these two things from. Let's not make any bones about it. So, Bethany, are you ready to jump into your mental DeLorean? Go back in time? To go back?
Take me back. Get up to 80, what is it, 88 miles per hour?
It is 88 miles per hour. Let's do it. Let's do it to it. So, Sunday, May 18th, 1980, in Skamania County, Washington at 8:32 a.m. Life gets fucking real as a volcano in the Cascade Mountain Range erupts. Now, the event, in terms of the volcanic explosivity index, got a 5 out of 8 stars. 2 thumbs way, way up from Cisco and Ebert.
I didn't realize we have a rating on volcanic activity. Okay.
This is America. We have to have a rating on everything. It was one of the highest that there's ever been. It was tremendous. It was absolutely tremendous. It was very high on the scale. If there's going to be a volcano that erupts, it's the highest when I am, talking about it.
It's the highest because I say it's the highest.
It's the highest because I say. 5 out of 8 stars. I mean, you really can't do better than that. I guess 8 stars would be best, but not here. Not an American volcano. No. It's amazing. So in mid-March, we're going to back up a little bit. A 4.2 magnitude earthquake signals to everyone that the volcano is no longer hibernating. So it starts erupting steam, creating new craters, and shot an ash column 7,000 feet into the air. And then, for some inexplicable reason, people start coming in droves to see Mount St. Helens. Why?
God. Well, people are dumb. Okay, well, I can tell you that if it was me, I would be the hell out of there. Okay, but people are dumb and like to risk their lives. But isn't this also like a nerd's dream?
Well, yeah, but I want to see it from another state. You can see that ash column. I'm going to give it a gander from Oregon, or at least
who knows? Maybe I'll go to Canada to look.
Right.
My ass is going far away.
I'm at least going to be in Spokane and be like, oh, yeah, I see the ash column. Okay, that's fun. I'm done.
Cool. Okay, bye.
Bye. Exactly. So a 16,000 foot long fracture developed at the summit. And further steam explosions carried ash as far as Spokane. The U.S. Geological Survey teams determined that it was a 1.5 mile section of the north face of the mountain was already displaced outward by some 270 feet. So this bulge it's basically like a goiter that develops on the face of this mountain. Now this bulge grows 5 to 6 feet per day. And in mid-May, saw the displacement extending to 400 feet northward.
Oh my God.
Which again, why are you come to see this? Mountains aren't supposed to grow any at all, more or less 5 to 6 feet per day.
Yeah.
God almighty. So what was actually causing this displacement? It was the result of magma accumulating at the weakest point in the mountain's vents, or we'll call it a volcano because that's exactly what it is. So the volcano has these vents that vent steam and everything. Well, magma is accumulating at the weakest point. And this is occurring because the previous eruption of St. Helens had blocked the center channel, up through the top, like what you see when you imagine a volcano. So it's like when you have to use the bathroom, Bethany, and you're desperate, you have to go. You don't really give a shit how the sausage is made in that case. And
or like a pimple, eventually it's gonna pop.
It's gonna pop. And that's
you can try to avoid it all you want, but that thing's gonna eventually build up some steam and pop.
You better do it now. That's all we're saying. And that's exactly where this volcano was at.
Gotta release that pressure. Release it.
Oh my God. We're on way too much Robitussin and whatever else to be doing this.
Welcome to the journy of drugged up life. Over the counter drugged up life. Sorry, I wanted to make that very clear. We are on over-the-counter drugs, okay?
Drugs. Just a great deal of them, and we do apologize. This is not we're not normally this crazy. So the USGS, not on air, not in front of people. So the USGS then created a map of the area around St. Helens based on the projections of Mount St. Helens' largest previous eruption. So, in the minds of a majority of these scientists with the U.S. Geological Survey, they're fully prepared. Worst case scenario, and as of this moment, the USGS is on the right track. The problem arises in that their projections were based on the previous eruption, which was, like we had said, a vertical one. And so the safe zones around the mountain, which when we say the safe zone, I really mean the unsafe zones, were mapped around the mountain on that premise that this was going to be a vertical eruption. Now, as we know, however, St. Helens Dante's peaked the shit out of it and did not erupt vertically or traditionally. So,
they blew up everywhere. Okay?
It blew up everywhere. It's like me if I don't take my Xanax and have my regularly scheduled breakdown once a week.
Here.
It just did it in the Walmart parking lot. Shit got real in a hurry. Let's put it that way. So the red zone, which is 7 miles from the mountain, could be entered only by police and scientists, and a blue zone 15 miles out could only be entered by logging company employees. This area, however, was aimed mostly to the south and east based on the assumption that the eruption would be vertical. And there are also some other components that go into drawing those out, which we will get to later. So the rapidly growing bulge on the side of the mountain was largely dismissed, and it was dismissed by a majority of the USGS as normal signs indicative of a vertical eruption, which I don't know how. I've never seen that in a normal before, but whatever. We're all willing to paint a picture, and we'll get to why. So it is important to note, though, that they correctly projected the lahar flows and flooding maps based on debris disbursement from an eruption. And that's also going to be important later. Now, it's also equally as important to note that the USGS has advisory capacity only. They give their assessment, essentially, and it is up to the state to implement those suggestions to the letter or to ignore the assessment. Now, while the safe zone suggestions were taken, the river and valley warnings for the flooding were not. Now, back to the bulge. As the bulge moved north, the bulge. The bulge. We always like a good bulge. Who doesn't? Who doesn't?
So the bulge moved where? Where did the bulge move?
It moved north. And it actually caused St. Helens Summit to shrink behind it. Yeah, you can't look at the peak when the bulge is that big. Let's put it that way. Oh, don't have eyes for anything else. Certainly not mountain peaks. So, the deformation was caused by this amount of magma that had pushed into the volcano, and so much so that we've got this giant goiter on the face of the mountain. That's where we're at. So, again, I can't think what they were thinking, because that's not what you see out of a normal eruption.
No.
You have slowly leaking out lava before it kicks off. But again, St. Helens is very, very different. Basically, when the landslide occurs later on, thanks to the earthquakes caused by the accumulation of this magma in the wrong place, it ends up opening up just, for lack of a better word, portal to hell. It's like it reverse Narnia'd that shit, right? Like, if Lucy went through the wardrobe to see them kicking Mr. Tumnus's ass versus having tea with him the first time,
she'd be like, "Oh, hell no. Yeah, you on your own, goat man." And she'd like walk out, shut that door, burn that bitch. We ain't going through that.
I was about to say, that wardrobe is a tinder box and we are going to burn it to the ground. Like, that's essentially what was opened up by these continuing, because again, magma causes the earthquakes, and eventually all of that shit's just going to slip off the side of a mountain like a snake shedding its gross skin. Now, this does sound super metal. Nobody's saying it doesn't. But on a serious note, that causes explosive decompression to the unexposed portion of the cryptodome inside a volcano. So on May 7th, eruptions continued, and the bulge is just growing. The bulge is just growing, and a large number of earthquakes start to be recorded, prior to this landslide and the resultant eruption. Now, Bethany, you ready for our story's hero?
Ooh, I love a good hero. Yay.
I need a hero. Oh. We got one. So
0 to hero. Just like that.
Ow! Well, God, you could tell we've been sick. We've been watching way too much Disney.
So
if there's a real hero in this story for me, it's going to be David Johnson. Now, he is a 30-something, yeah, right? David Johnson.
We're talking about bulges and now a Johnson, okay? My mind has gone really far. I'm like, you're talking about all this stuff, and I'm like, damn, my mind is not thinking about volcanoes.
Well, what my mind is thinking about is how many audio stills are going to be made from this by our asshole friends that just and played over and over again for us. So David's this 30-something geologist with the USGS. He's wearing some awesome Fair Isle sweaters, very handsome. But most importantly, he is incredibly freaking smart. So he spends some time digging around, and he finds another volcano around that time in the Soviet Union that was showcasing the same peculiar symptoms of Mount St. Helens. So he stands his ass up in a meeting and he says, you know what? I think this blast's gonna be lateral. It's all there. Look at this. This, the science shit's all the same, right?
Yeah.
So the USGS does take a brief glance at this, and they just go, nah, and collectively ignore David Johnson's points.
Grr.
So the safe zone, in their minds is the safe zone. The blast is going to be vertical. So then on May 16th, of all things, all visible signs of this impending eruption just cease. So of course, Bethany, people start going out. It's beautiful. And if those vampires in the Pacific Northwest get the least little bit of sunlight, they just flock out in droves to sparkle together.
Yeah.
Now, granted, nothing was happening, but still, why go within 100 miles of a volcano that was active like a day ago? Exactly. Oh, wait, no. I remember they were told it was safe as long as they stayed out of those zones. That was it, Bethany. Ugh.
Yeah.
That's why.
That's why. Now I remember.
Yeah, that's it. So all but 3 individuals, 2 of which were scientists that were killed or injured in the blast, were in zones outside of the red and blue zones. So they were in areas that were deemed to be perfectly safe. So thank God this thing erupts on a Sunday, because there were 300 loggers still working in the, quote, red zone area the day before the eruption.
Oh, Jesus.
Right?
Body count would have been a lot higher.
A hell of a lot higher. So people were like also throwing fits about wanting to go and get their shit back all the way up to May 17th. Yeah, people that lived inside these zones. And in fact, officials allowed 50 carloads of people to go back in and grab what they could carry.
Oh my God. Wow. Okay, first of all, haven't people heard of the phrase the calm before the storm?
Apparently not.
I guess not. And second, and why didn't they take what they needed in the first place? Like, I just don't understand. Like, clearly it says this volcano, you're having tremor, or, tremors, like earthquakes and landslides, and like, get your shit and get out. Like I said earlier, my ass would have been long gone. Okay.
The first earthquake, and it shooting steam and ash 7,000 feet in the air. I've already got my social fucking security card and my birth certificate and everything else I made. And my passport. I'm going to the Caribbean for the next few months. I earn it. My house is about to be engulfed by a volcano. What is your shit when you could die? Literally. I just...
yeah, I don't get it.
Whatever. It is what it is. So, now, it's 6 a.m. on May 18th. And 6 miles away, volcanologist David Johnson is at an observation post. His measurements don't indicate anything unusual or out of place with our current pattern of activity. So the rate of bulge movement, sulfur dioxide emission, ground temperature readings, they didn't give any indication that there was about to be a catastrophic eruption. 8:32 a.m. A 5.1 magnitude earthquake just below the North Slope triggers a landslide. But not just any landslide, Bethany. The largest in recorded history. And it was traveling anywhere between 110 to 150 miles per hour. So remember, it's this initial landslide that opens up the face of the mountain and starts letting all that volcano shit out. So this landslide covers an area of 24 square miles with total volume at about 0.7 cubic miles. The debris filled an entire river valley. The north side of St. Helens was covered in rubble 17 miles thick, and thickest in an area around Spirit Lake. Thick swaths of forest were flattened by the waves of this rock side. Now, there were massive waves within Spirit Lake, and they estimate some of them maybe 600 to 800 feet high, and general destruction. But the lake also absorbed tons of debris. 295 feet worth of debris accumulated on the lake bed alone, raising the lake by almost 200 feet. As the water moved back into the lake basin, it sucked all the trees flattened by the landslide and eruption back into Spirit Lake. So to this day, they find groups of these floating, charred, dead trees in the lake 30 years later. Can you imagine that?
Whoa. I mean, that definitely explains just how big this was.
Right? To try to kind of wrap your head around it. So, like I said, this landslide, all of that's a result of this, but it exposes the magma underneath, which causes the pressure to drop and causing the high pressure contents inside of the volcano to explode. Now, this explosion begins right at the tail end of this already cataclysmic landslide, and it blasts northward, immediately followed by our old friend, the pyroclastic flow, or basically a current of pressurized gas and volcano matter that can move as fast as 430 miles per hour. And, it's only burning at 670 or 1,830 degrees Fahrenheit. That's all the hotter.
Only.
That's all the hotter it is. I mean, not a big deal. You can survive that one, can't you, Pierce Brosnan? Ugh. That movie, please, please, guys, go see it for us. So the debris moving under this flow hugs the ground and accelerates to roughly 675 or 70 miles per hour, and it may have briefly passed the speed of sound.
Whoa.
Right? So this pyroclastic flow devastates the area of 23 miles across, 19 miles long. In total, 230 square miles of forest were destroyed. So you've got the landslide followed immediately by explosion, followed immediately by this pyroclastic flow. Can you imagine seeing that, Bethany, and as quickly as it happened?
God, it's like if you blink, you'll miss it.
Exactly. And then you just look up and you're like, oh, Jesus in heaven, when did we move to Mordor? Like, oh, there's Frodo in the One Ring. There it is. I see it. Because Mount Doom just like got real. My God. So the direct blast zone is 8 miles in radius. Now, in this circle, everything's obliterated. The blast released energy equal to 24 megatons of TNT. Now, the channelized blast zone, the space in the middle, extended to about 19 miles from the volcano. So in that 8 miles, there's nothing left. Now we're moving out to that 19 miles around the mountain. Everything that was touched was obliterated. And there was a little help from natural topography deflecting damage to some of these areas. But you know where the blast hit in this zone because all the trees are like smashed through at their bases. Like they were just all mowed down like blades of grass from a lawnmower. It's absolutely incredible. It's incredible footage to look at, and I encourage everybody to go do it. And then we end at the very ends of the damaged zones with something called the seared zone, or the outermost area of impact. The trees would like remain standing, but everything was just singed to that really healthy brown color that you love to see because of the hot gases released from the blast. Now, by the time the pyroclastic flow hit any human victims, it was still estimated as hot as 680 degrees Fahrenheit.
My
God. And then, of course, it's also full of suffocating gas and flying debris. So that's fun, too. So again, most of our 57 known victims that died of asphyxiation or severe burns. Ugh. It's just goosebumps.
I don't want to burn to death.
I don't ever want to burn to death. I agree. Like, I feel like there are a lot of things better than that. And especially that kind of burn to death. Like, ugh.
Yeah. At least they said they died instantly, so at least that's a plus.
Some of them did. Some of them were just far enough out in that sear, you know. I mean, Jesus God in heaven, that is terrible. Makes me sick.
Yeah.
Thank God for science facts, because get ready for some more. The volcano released 17 separate flows during the eruption. While all of that's occurring, an ash column formed 12 miles above the explosion and spit debris into the stratosphere, which is the second level of Earth.
Yeah, that's the second one.
Yeah, that's how intense it was for 10 consecutive hours. Now, near the volcano, the ash in the atmosphere, static electricity caused by that is generating lightning. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. And in turn, because what you really freaking needed on top of all of this, that lightning starts forest fires. Yay! So
only you can prevent forest fires.
Only you. Don't throw your cigarettes out and avoid volcanic ash clouds. So throughout this day, ash is being dumped as far as 90 miles away. And by 11:45 a.m., it reaches Spokane, Washington. As far as Spokane experienced total darkness by noon and visibility of 10 feet as ash fell. By 10:15 p.m., ash was falling on Yellowstone, and the next day it was falling on Denver, Colorado. Eventually, ash was reported as far away as Minnesota and Oklahoma. By the end of 2 weeks, the ash had drifted all the way around the globe. During the eruption, 540 million tons of ash fell over 22,000 square miles. Then, oh God, because, we've got volcano, now forest fires. What we need to add to that is a little biblical flooding. So the explosion, of course, melts all of the mountain's glaciers, creating huge mud flows with up to 12-foot high muddy water and debris walls.
Jeez.
Can you imagine all of this shit, Bethany?
No, I mean, I know that we just discussed in the beginning about like not having to worry about living with a volcano, but at the same time, it's like we still have to worry about the effects from that said volcano, even if we're miles and miles away.
Yes, exactly, which is why they scare the piss out of me. Ugh.
God.
So we've looked at the science, but let's look at this in a way that means something, or in a way maybe that will move you, Bethany, if you catch my drift. I'm the science person, but y'all, Bethany is just a straight up empath. So we've made all the science people jizz over the numbers. Let's let all the actual people understand the experience. Are you ready for this, Bethany?
Yeah, being an empath has its good and bad. Okay.
Whatever,
So.
Witch. Burn her. She knows how to fulfill.
She can read off people's emotions. She's a witch.
Witch. So, like we said, the numbers and the science I've just given you, that's not exactly gripping information. And I kind of agree. So let's look at some personal stories. Now, I can only assume that Danny Balch and Brian Thomas were having like the bodies stand by me moment before those two things ever existed, because they met up with 4 of their friends to go camping. I don't know, maybe poke some dead bodies with a stick. I don't know why a person would go out camping. Oh, wait a minute. That's right, Bethany. They were told they were safe where they were at. That's right. That's it. That's what it was. But still. Okay, so they're 7 miles from the outer blue zone, which we'll remember is that 15
logger,
miles.
right?
Yeah, that's the logger spot. So they're 7 miles away from the edge of that spot. And then Danny's feeling pretty good about it still, because end of the day, he knows there are like 2 huge mountain ridges between them and the actual mountain. And again, they're in a place that the state of Washington has told them is completely safe to be in. So the eruption occurs. It's like we said, blink of an eye. It's such an instant explosion. But, and this is why I kind of love being an American, even though I'm about to really get in the middle of the government's ass soon. Government agencies, including the Forestry Service, state troopers, National Guard, Mountain Rescue, were wheels up and searching by 10:30 a.m. Remember, this explosion essentially occurred at 8:32 a.m. So that's a pretty good response, at least as far as looking for the survivors. Now, Danny suffers second-degree burns over 20% of his body. And he wanders around looking for help as Brian's hip has been crushed by like trees and debris during the explosion. 8.5 hours later, they are rescued, and 2 of their party died, crushed by trees in their tent.
Oh, God. That's something to put on your tombstone.
Right? Like, crushed by a tree and volcanic explosion. What are the odds,
I know.
God. But then it's like, poor guy's got 20% of his body is like pyroclastic cloud burned, wandering around for 8.5 hours trying to save his buddy who's been crushed by a tree and his hip shattered. My God. Like, again, pretty criminal, since they were told you're fine to come in where you're at. So, remember those USGS warnings about those lahar and flooding flows?
Right.
Yeah, they were actually dead on about that. And again, we'll remember the good old state of Washington choose to ignore those. So, Roll Wrighton and his girlfriend Venus Durgan are 25 miles outside of the edge of the blue zone and 33 miles from the mountain. In no way should they, according to the state of Washington, been in any danger. They couldn't even see the mountain from where they were. Right. So they're fishing, camping on the Tool River. They can't see that mountain, getting down. Let's face it, that's what that was. So they feel completely safe, banging, fishing, having fun. 22 minutes after the eruption, they are swept from their spot and carried downriver by mud, water, and trees. Now, in a reverse Titanic scenario, Venus is the one sucked under the logs and water, and Roald is on the log.
I'll never let go, Venus.
I'll never let go, Venus. A bullshit, sir. But luckily enough, somebody wanted her to live. Like her hand, he sees it come up just between some groups of logs through the water, and he grabs her.
Oh, well, at least he pulls her up.
Right.
I mean, Rose could have pulled him up. Come on now. There was plenty of room on that door for two. That's all I'm going to say.
Couldn't have figured out how to balance as he got on or tried it again when he felt, oh, please. But you're exactly right. Like, Rose could have made some room on that door. We all know it. So at least Roald is a more decent individual than that bitch Rose.
Yeah. And everybody agrees with me, okay?
Everybody agrees with you on that point. So they're swept 5 miles down the river before they can get out and are rescued at 11:30 a.m. So the pilot is lifting them from the scene in this rescue copter, and he turns around, and this smartass, and I kind of get this guy, turns around and asks Roald, "Want to see what almost killed you?"
Oh my God, that sounds like you.
Right? Want to see it? You want to see what almost killed you? You do, don't you? You want to see some shit? So, at which point, I guess if you're Roald, though, you're just like, yeah, I kind of do. So the pilot turns the helicopter, and Roald just sees the smoking ruin of Mount St. Helens. But, you know, maybe we don't want to pause for that because Roald only has fractured feet and skin abrasions. Oh, poor Roald. Meanwhile, Venus lost fucking 60% of the skin on her body.
Oh, God.
My guess is she doesn't really care what is currently attempting to still kill her, you two assholes.
Bitch, get me to a hospital.
Get me to a hospital. And then I got to thinking about that because she's in that water. And again, it's like that Dante's Peak deal where the old lady jumps out into that acid lake. Because all of that volcanic shit is in that water as well. It's not just like getting hit by logs and stuff. That is acidic, like really horrible.
It's peeling the skin off your body like clean peel.
Like, she's so lucky. Most people don't survive losing 60% of an organ like the skin from their body. My God. It's just, that is, I got to that and I was like, oh my God. Ugh.
Yeah.
So Bethany, would you want to see the volcano or would you just be like, fuck you, get me to the hospital?
No, for real. Be like, dude, why would I want to see something that I'm literally missing over half of my skin?
Exactly. Me too. Like, I'll catch it on the freaking 6 o'clock news when I'm hooked to a morphine drip, you asshole. Like,
yeah.
God. So, back to some more survivor stories or just personal stories. Grad student Keith Ronholm is 10 miles northeast of the peak, but he's inside the blue zone. Now, where he's at, he has a perfect view of the mountain, and his pictures end up being key in the USGS investigation of the blast. Because remember, we said over in the blink of an eye. So he's like kicking it back. We all know he was smoking because I saw the picture of this guy's van. All right, like, let's just say,
would go out into the forest and take pictures of a mountain. Like,
exactly. Like, dude, I'm just super high and I want to try to catch this eruption on camera. Like,
this would be so cool. I'll be a millionaire.
It's gonna be awesome. God, I love science. So he's just waiting, and then all of a sudden he just sees the west face of the mountain, as he put it, just start flowing down like water.
Mhm.
And so he's snapping pictures like crazy. And then he notices it's all coming towards him. So this mofo jumps in his van and literally outdrives this shit exactly like Pierce Brosnan
Pierce Brosnan. Yeah.
and Dante's
So it can be done.
It can be done, Bethany. So there you go, all you doubting Thomases. Pew, 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 pew. You can't outdrive a volcano.
Oh, God.
It can be done.
It can be done.
Now it's time to get real sad, Bethany. I've given you all the good ones. I've given you people that survived, but we're going to talk about one of our 57. You remember David Johnson?
Our hero.
Our hero.
No.
Yeah.
No. Well, you know, all good heroes die, don't they? All right.
Exactly. It wouldn't be a very good story if you didn't.
Give it to me, girl. Come on. Whip the Band-Aid off.
All right, let's rip it off. We're going to get sad, guys. Sorry. So, as I said, he's monitoring the volcano when it goes off. Now, he was supposed to be off that weekend, but he jumped at the chance to cover a colleague, which that guy's guilt. And you have to feel guilty about it, right? Because that's supposed to be you. And David was there. But he just couldn't pass up the opportunity to get some extra study time on the bulge. Now, he'd been monitoring it for 4 weeks straight, so this was nothing out of the ordinary to him. But unfortunately, when the volcano erupted, he is straight in its path of that flow of the landslide, everything. And he's just 6 miles from the summit, well inside the red zone.
The red zone. Oh,
yeah.
No.
So which in the event of a vertical blast, there would have been, I can only assume, like time and signs to get away. But in this case, there was literally time for him to just grab a radio and say, take cover, this is it. And that's why he's the hero to me, because Bethany, you can be happy or you can be right. And I am petty as shit, because my last words would definitely have been to say, I was right, you assholes, as the vertical blast is coming straight at you.
Oh, God. Seriously, he chose and that's why he's the hero. Because, if that was me and I was sitting there watching this volcano for 4 weeks straight, standing his ass up saying, hey, listen to me. Y'all bitches are wrong. You need to get it right. And then that happened. I wouldn't have got on the radio and been like, hey, take cover. It's coming. I would have been like, fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. You're cool. I'm out. Okay. Peace. I was right.
I was right, bitch.
I was right.
I'm glad
I wouldn't have been like, take cover. God. Seriously.
See, you get it. That's why he's the hero, because he's a good person to the end. I would have used my last few seconds of life to be like, fuck you, I told you I was right. I hate all of you.
Peace out.
Peace out.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. Or radio.
Literally,
drop,
though.
In this case. Literally. So,
oh, God.
The Mount St. Helens eruption was the deadliest and most economically destructive eruption in U.S. history. And to be fair, there haven't been that many. So, of course, it's going to take the trophy because people actually died in it. 57 people were killed, 200 homes, 47 bridges, 15 miles of railway, and 185 miles of highway were destroyed. Mount St. Helens' height was reduced by 1,280 feet. Crops downwind of the volcano were completely destroyed. Forests were destroyed. Wildlife, all dead. Ash caused problems with transportation, sewage, and the water treatment facilities. Not just the roads, but air travel was disrupted for weeks. Can you imagine that much disruption to air traffic in the U.S. today, Bethany? How insane it would be 2019 versus 1980.
People would be like, why is my flight canceled? I don't care about this volcano. I just want to get to my beach in Monaco, okay?
What do you mean the plane can't operate in volcanic ash clouds? Do I look like I give a shit? Oh my God. I am going to wreck your ass on Yelp, you little bitch.
I will not be flying this airline again.
Again, what do you mean the rest of them are closed as well? No, no.
No.
I swear to God, I'm going to Uber to an airport that works.
Oh, God.
So Ash even caused problems in everything with an actual working engine, because Ash has a fun little tendency to be able to work its way into small cracks. So not only that, it gets into oil systems, clogs air filters, and starts scratching surfaces. It caused short circuits and transformers, causing widespread blackouts. Ash removal cost $2.2 million and took 10 weeks in Yakima. I think that's how you say it. I'm not Yakima or Yakima, but
I would say Yakima.
Yakima? See,
that's what I would say.
Wichita, Yakima.
Fair.
I assume it's got to be. It's also like a Native American word. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yakima or Yakima, Washington. Let us know, listeners. I'm sure you will. So it causes all of that just in that one county of Washington alone. Now, it is estimated that it costs up to $1.1 billion in that time, and that's billion with a B, in damage. So essentially, the danger zones to the west and northwest of the mountain were too small. And the state of Washington, they knew this. As our hero, David Johnson, and local law enforcement officials made a concerted effort to expand the zones that you can't enter to the north and west, which encompass the area where all of our deaths occurred, coincidentally.
A little too late there.
I mean, a little too late. David Johnson worked his ass off, as well as local officials going, I don't know if this is going to be vertical, guys. What's with that dance belt on the face of the mountain there? It looks like every Disney princess business, and it's pointing straight to the north and west. I don't think anything out of that's going to be good.
God. No. God, I am sorry. I just keep getting this mental image. And I talked to you earlier before we recorded about watching the live action Cinderella. And that's all I can picture. Prince Charming and his bulge. I'm like, I'm watching this with my kids, Disney. Come on now.
Well, they're not shy about putting dicks in their work. I will give it. We put the dick in Disney. Good God. So the red and blue zones that were drawn by the initial assessment, that was the assessment that was going to be committed to by the USGS no matter what. There's some dick that's in charge. That's like, no, I'm right. You're wrong. I'm right. God. No, you weren't, asshole. That's what really? I mean by I would have yelled it. I would have yelled it, guys. So, and this is where I really, really, really love our book at our source today, because it gets into a lot of things. And I cannot tell you how much I recommend you read it, about the state's alleged motivation and ignoring all these dissenting opinions headed up by David Johnson. Let's say, as it usually frickin' is, it was largely an economic motivation on the part of the states, and maybe even some members of the USGS, for not closing the area to the north and west of the mountain. Now, the USGS did correctly predict the flooding zone areas. However, the reason the state of Washington ignored this and did not heed the advice given by the advisory agency USGS, and this is from Eruption: Untold Story of Mount St. Helens. The book kind of explores just how dependent the economy in this area was on things like commercial fishing. And there we see that reluctancy to close down the flood zone areas. Well, of course. And also, the river was a great way for Weyerhaeuser to move logs. So the area was also notoriously lucrative north and west of the mountain, for not just fishing, of which the season had begun, but Also, like we had talked about, that Weyerhaeuser logging operations, particularly those Weyerhaeuser dominated areas, were centered north and west. And that's exactly where those safety zones miraculously fell well short of.
Mhm.
And that's, again, I cannot recommend this book enough, guys. It really makes you understand the hold this business had on the socioeconomic reality and mindset of the people living there and governing there at this time in this area. But there was still time for the state of Washington to have done the right thing and ignore the fact that commercial fishing might take a hit at the beginning of the season, and you might not be able to cut down and replant quite as many trees as you would have normally, because a proposal to expand the zone west managed to make it to the governor, Dixie Lee Ray's desk on Saturday, May 17th. However, she didn't make it into the office at any point that day.
I mean, it's a Saturday. So.
It's a Saturday, and you're the governor. Who gives a shit that you've got a whole state to look after? You know, you get a day
or an
off.
active volcano.
You know, just an active volcano in your goddamn state. Like, let's just set that all aside. What do you think she was doing that day that was just so all fired important, Bethany?
Painting her back porch.
I wish.
I don't know. I'm just
painting her back porch. I sincerely wish it had. Try a parade on for size.
A parade? Like an actual parade? Like
yes,
through the streets?
Actual parade through the streets that she was going to be in. To be fair,
my God.
She's not exactly Barbie, so it might have been her only opportunity to wave from the back of an open car. Which I would think if you're any kind of official, JFK would have touched it and knocked that shit off, but I guess not. So she comes in, that proposal is sitting on the desk when the volcano erupted on Sunday, killing David Johnson, who proposed this expansion in those areas. And again, all but 3 of our victims were outside of the red and blue zones, with the exception of 2 scientists who were allowed into the red zone, and a gentleman we'll discuss in a minute by the name of Harry R. Truman. Now, I wouldn't go anywhere near a volcano that had the smallest chance of erupting. However, the state of Washington led these people to believe that they were perfectly safe to work and be outside the zones enforced by the state itself. I believe they had every reasonable expectation of being safe. Now, yes, the consensus view of the USGS indicated that the safe zones were sufficient. Regardless, the state was aware of grumbling and growing concern within portions of the USGS and local law enforcement that they were not big enough. And I think it is the state's responsibility to balance the safety of all of its citizens in equal part with its economic concerns. As it so happened, so did a couple of lawyers, because the survivors' families sued the state of Washington. Now, Governor Dixie Lee Ray, this piece of work, however, publicly and immediately insinuated that the people killed in the eruption were in the danger zones illegally.
Oh, blame the people.
Oh, well, of course. Why wouldn't you? And President Jimmy less than a frickin' genius Carter then repeats the accusation to the nation after he has a little flyover tour of the disaster zone. Didn't even go down, meet these people's family, nothing. They didn't do any of that. They just immediately jumped on the TV and start saying, it's not our fault.
It's the people.
Blaming the victims. So again, 3 of 57 killed were in areas they weren't supposed to be. 2 of them had permission to be there. The only person there illegally, 1 of 57 people there illegally, was Harry R. Truman, an 80-something-year-old man who refused to leave his lodge. Unfortunately, his tale had been widely publicized and was run in juxtaposition to Lee and Carter's statements about the tragedy. Now, I'm sure this guy was a lovely man in life, but this is a perfect example of old, set in your ways, and ignorant having a far-reaching impact on the lives of literally everyone around him.
I was born in this hole. I'll die in this hole.
My God, I am born in it. I'm going to die right here in this holler. You see this? You see, my grandma's grandma, and my grandma's grandma's grandma have been hoarding in this lodge for just centuries, and I ain't going nowhere. I mean, it's just like, it's total Fox CNN bait, you know?
Yeah.
And so that story about Truman runs on a loop with the governor's statement and the president's statement, and the trial of public opinion insinuated these people died through some fault of their own. So despite their loved ones being outside of the danger zones, they were victim blamed, and the families had to settle out of court with the state.
Oh, yeah. It does. It reminds me of a disaster, and you know, which one is it with the Bushes? Katrina.
Katrina.
Yeah,
exactly. We see it over and over again, and it's not just Katrina. It's all these recent hurricanes, all the recent flooding. It seems to me that the government always comes up a day late and a dollar short, if you will.
A penny short, in their opinion. They're just a penny short.
In their opinion, and they're going to make sure the media blasts that as loud as possible. Because I don't believe for 1 second that it isn't the same situation with things like that we saw here with Mount St. Helens. You know, at the end of the day, commercial fishing and Weyerhaeuser logging won out over public safety.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is 3 people would have died instead of 57.
Right. Because they were allowed to be there, except for one.
They were told by the state it was bloody safe. Like, I'm sorry, but people have a reasonable expectation to believe they're going to be safe when the United States government tells them they're going to be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now think about Katrina and all of that shit. Think about how the news media hasn't stopped victim blaming. And don't tell me that economic factors don't still contribute to these failures that we see over and over. I feel like in 20, 30, 40 years down the road, we're going to be looking at all the hurricanes, floods, any other natural event, and you can like replace the name Mount St. Helens with any one of the others, and it's going to be the exact same story.
Mm.
That at the end of the day, money was more important than people.
Yeah.
And it's just, to me, it's just another reason that we have really got to start holding our leaders accountable, and not by just voting and protesting. And yes, these things are very, very important, but we need to go and make a concerted effort to see our congressmen and senators. We have to write letters. It's fun to protest in the streets and then not vote or not join together across the nation in letter writing campaigns. But it's all important, and sometimes affecting change isn't fun. It takes work.
Lots of work. Yeah.
Lots of work. And we can't stop, or else I feel like we're just going to see this over and over again. Mm-hmm. And we're going to keep having our St. Helens, our Katrinas, and they don't care if you and your loved ones die, as long as a corporation doesn't have to shut down work on a Saturday. It's absolutely ridiculous. Ugh. It's going to keep happening over and over again every time that Mother Earth decides to be a bitch, which, you know, on the whole, that's another bag of dicks that we can't get into, because if anybody really deserves to be a bitch right now, it's Earth.
She has a right to be pissed.
She has a right to be pissed, and she's certainly showed us how pissed she can be with Mount St. Helens. So that finishes our story.
Yay.
Woo! And takes us to our favorite part.
Ooh, counterculture.
Yes. Okay. Now, of course, I want to always, in our really quickly, let's explain to our listeners, our counterculture is where we like to throw out appreciation for things that made us happy this week, because what we talk about is depressing, horribly depressing. We realize that, and we like to wrap up on a high note,
happy note, if
you will. So I want to give my love, as always, to Care Rescue Texas at carerescuetexas.com, or you can find them at that same name on social media. They do some really, really amazing work there, guys, for animal rescue, especially big cats. And that's something that's very near and dear to my heart. The director there, absolutely lovely. If you go follow their Instagram, there are some amazing pictures, and they do a really, really amazing job of engaging people that care about that kind of work. I want to encourage our listeners to also use our time, our counterculture time as well. We want you to hit us up on social media with anything that's super important to you guys. Because
we've got a few people do it too. Yeah.
Yeah. And we have had a few people do it. And we would love to talk about it here. We'll talk about it for you. What matters to you is what matters to us, I guess, basically is what we're trying to get across. So please, you matter. Every one of you matters. We're not the U.S. government. We care. We care. You are not factory fodder to us, guys. So again, please go visit Care Rescue Texas on social media and carerescuetexas.com. Now, Bethany, who do you want to shout out this week?
Well, let's see. Of course, I love listening to the guys over at Renting Sobriety. They published a new episode about, dealing with sobriety during the holidays. And honestly, I can relate to that more than one. They talk about going to see their family and how you, like, personally for me, I have to be a little fucked up to get around them.
Oh, yeah,
all
me
right,
too.
Here we go.
I got to be at least a quarter away through one of those giant Tito's vodka bottles. It just doesn't happen any other way. I am drunk for 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, and they do get down to the serious business of it, but they like to have fun and joke around. And I do enjoy listening to their podcasts. And for some reason, I weirdly relate to what they're saying. Yeah, I'm like, oh.
So let's go ahead and shout that out there for sure. So guys, if you know anybody or you yourself has struggled with addiction and just that meetings and the depression of stuff like that, you can go and you can get a laugh and you can seriously hear some advice from people that have been through exactly what you're going through at our friends at Renting Sobriety Podcast. So definitely. Yeah. Now, what else, Bethany? What else made you happy?
Me and my memes and, because we've been sick, all the Disney memes I've been sending you, like, it's midnight. I have to go. Don't go. Bitch, I will do what I want. Don't tell me what to do. And that meme, maybe we can share it on some pages.
I bet we can. We're going to have to. We'll share it on our social media. It's our new favorite meme. Again, I can't tell you guys how much Robitussin and like Dayquil and NyQuil we've been hyped up on for a week. We have barely brought you this hastily thrown together wreck of an episode, if you can't tell. That's thus the sidetracks and whatever else we talk about. God,
what gets me, Jessica, is we are literally in two separate states, and yet we seem to have gotten sick at the same time, and I don't understand how that happens.
Taking computer virus to a whole new level.
For real.
I'm sorry, your tweeting infected me, you bitch.
You tweeted and now I'm sick.
And now I'm sick. Chaos magic, bitch. Puh, like right in your face. Oh, God. All right, that does it for us, guys. I have a feeling when I listen to this one, I'm going to be thoroughly embarrassed, and I just literally... God,
this will be our best podcast yet.
Guys, please give some love to the best editor in the world at www.podcasteditguy.com. And that's why we thank him at the end of all of our episode notes. He's the freaking best because we're freaking idiots. A genius. He makes us palatable every week. Go give the guy some love on social media, too. God knows he needs it. He's got to deal with all of this. So that kind of does it for us. We're going to see you every Wednesday. Also, really quickly, listeners, we are looking for your own personal historical, true crime, death, and disaster stories or close calls. Or if your grandma or your mom was at Mount St. Helens, please email it to us.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
It would be super cool because we have something kind of special in mind that we want to end up doing with that. So I think that gets it. If you would like to contact us via email, email us at our website, www.bodycountpod.net, where you can listen and, more importantly, you can find links to purchase our source material if you want to do a deep dive. Like I said, we just skim the surface in the most idiotic way possible. So please, please go check out the meat and taters. You can DM me on Twitter and Instagram with any suggestions for the show that you guys may have. We want to know what you want to hear about. So follow the show at Body Count Pod on Instagram and Twitter, Body Count Pod on Facebook. Please tell your friends about us, subscribe, rate, and review the show. We drop every Wednesday anywhere you can listen to podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, etc. Search Body Space Count. We pop right up. You can follow me, Jessica Manor, on Twitter and Instagram at Jessica B. Manor. Where can people find you, Bethany?
On Facebook, you can find me Bethany Rose Skelton. You can also find me on Instagram at Bethany RN24. And then, of course, you can find me on Twitter, Bethany Skelton 5, the number 5.
Sweet. All right, guys. We are literally a year older and $1 shorter.
Or maybe a few more. A few more dollars shorter.
You can sub dollar with brain cells in that sentence as well.
There you go. That makes me feel much better there.
Bethany, I'm not even aware of the passage of time. All that lives in my head are history archives. Oh, God. All right, guys. Hopefully we'll be better, and we'll see you next week. Bye.